Hi, my name is Amy. Welcome to Rocking Motion, the first movement in the Tai Chi Chih movement series. To start with rocking motion, we're going to start with our feet in a V. If my hands were feet, this is kind of what your shape would look like. And just watch for a moment while I demonstrate, and then we'll take it apart and put it all together. So I'm going to shift to my right and step side left and make sure that my feet are equal angled and about shoulder width apart, and then my hands are going to come behind the back, come up on the toes, curl over the top, release. We'll do one more and then I'll close and we'll do this together. And then to close, we're going to bring the left foot back to meet the right, turn the hands over, and settle back into the resting pose. So we're going to start with the legs. Tai Chi Chih is done from the feet up or from the ground up, so we're always really aware of the focus, the single pointed focus in the soles of the feet if you're a beginner. So let's just find ourselves with our feet in that V sort of position or resting pose position. So settle into that and then take a deep breath. And bring your awareness to the soles of the feet. So just feel your feet on the floor. You can like grip your toes a little bit if you want, just to help you feel that sensation. And breathe again. And then notice if your body is like shifting forward a little bit so the weight is in the toes out of sync with the back heel. So you want to shift forward and back to find the midpoint. And then you want to shift to the right and then again to the left to find the midpoint laterally. You really want to be very squarely placed on your feet. And that may be unfamiliar to you, or your body may have a tendency and you just want to figure that out. So shift forward, and then back, and then find the midpoint, and then shift to the right and the left, and find the lateral midpoint, and take another breath. Always focusing in the soles of the feet. Now to initiate the movement, we're going to shift to the right, pick up the left foot, and place the heel down first, and then bring your feet in so that they're equal angled, as if there were a line of symmetry we could draw between the two feet and about shoulder width apart. And then we're going to begin the movement by shifting from the dantian, that's an area 2 inches below your navel, so my navel's right here, so it's right here. This is this area that we move from, that the energy sort of emerges from, gets circulated, and then returns back. So Tai Chi Chih, the name, means knowledge of the way of energy or knowledge of the supreme ultimate. So right now I'm shifting my weight back as my heels touch and my toes come up, and the ball of the big foot stays down, but just the toes rise, and then I'm shifting my weight forward and I come up on my toes. Sink down, back, and the body is kind of making an L shape as it comes back, and just a little bit of a tip at the end with the dantian. That's the shape the dantian is making. Heels touch. As soon as my heels touch, my knees become soft. Toes rise. We'll do one more. Heels down, heels touch, and the toes rise. And then to close, I'm going to shift back to the right, pick up the left foot, and come back into the resting pose position with the feet. And then now to include the hands, and then we'll put both feet and hands together. But before we do that, just stand and take another breath with that practice of focusing your awareness in the soles of the feet. So to bring your hands into the resting pose position, you're just going to hinge from the wrists right around the hip bones. And it's as if your hands are resting on a table right in front of you, and the arms are soft and released. They're not held up, which would create tension in the shoulder, and they're not locked, which also would create tension. So we're just, if you, in your own body proportions, stand with your arms hanging naturally, and then just tilt them up so that there's a very relaxed feeling all the way down the arm. And take a breath here, focusing in the soles of the feet, even though we're not doing the legs yet. Now to begin the arms, you're just going to relax at the wrists so that the fingertips hang down, and then palms flat to the opposite wall, and they pass the hips, and then they curve around and they open to the front wall, coming up to about chest height, and then they both curve over the top. And don't imitate the flutter of the fingers. That's just something that happens over time when you do Tai Chi Chih for a long time. It's just ignore it. But what you can feel, even though your awareness is placed in the soles of the feet, is a quality of movement, and you can pick which one resonates for you. Swimming through very heavy air, or slow motion in a dream. Feeling the soles of the feet and the arm movement, flat to the opposite wall, curving around the back, and coming up over the top here. There's actually a very elongated infinity symbol or figure eight that you are tracing. You could also think of that, if that helps you, include the curve over the top. Notice I'm leading with the wrists on the way down. And then the curve around the back. And then again, we're going to pick up and sink down. So take a breath. Okay, now we're going to put the legs and the arms together for rocking motion. I'm going to be standing with my feet in a V. Hands are in the resting pose position as well. I'm going to shift to the right, step side left, touching with the heel first, making sure my feet are equal angled and about shoulder width apart, and begin by moving my body back as the hands come back around the curve in the back, and then scooping up over the top. And then right past the hips, the wrists release completely and curve. So really enjoy the fact that the wrists can release completely right here. And keep going back a little, curving around, coming forward. One of the principles of Tai Chi Chih is softness and continuity. So make your motions as even as possible and as continuous as possible. So we're curving around the back, curving over the top. As soon as the heels touch, the knees become soft to absorb the weight shift. And here we go. Typically, we do 9 repetitions of a movement, or 9 repetitions on a side, left side, right side. Or you can do multiples of 9, or you can just do it for a certain amount of time, a minute or 2 of rocking motion. And then we're going to close. So breathe as you're moving. There's no special breathing affiliated with Tai Chi Chih. Let me turn to the side so you can see what it looks like to the side. You can see the hands coming behind and curving. And then I'm coming up on the toes, curving over the top. And then there's just a little bit of a release of the dantian, and then coming up, curving over the top. Release. release the wrists. Hands come behind the body. The whole body is moving as one. The arms are not moving separate from the dantian. Shifting back. Whole body moving together. And turning forward, coming up, turn over. One more. We'll do one more and then we'll close. Here we go. Good. And then shift back to the right. Turn the palms over and sink down. And take a breath. Great. So you may, if balance is an issue, you can certainly have a chair right next to you to put a hand on. If you're moving, if you're doing Tai Chi Chih in shoes, and as you're shifting back, this is just an instruction if you're wearing shoes, do not come up on the heels. Just lift up your toes inside your shoe. That will achieve the same effect. So that's rocking motion. The second movement in the Tai Chi Chih series is called Bird Flaps Its Wings, and we consider rocking motion and Bird Flaps Its Wings the two preliminaries to the movement series. So they're going to be linked in this video for you. So Bird Flaps Its Wings also starts from the resting pose, as do all the movements, so you're becoming acquainted with the resting pose. Feet are in a V. I'm going to demonstrate it, and then once again we're going to break it apart. First the legs and then the arms. So I'm taking a breath, and I am focusing in the soles of my feet. So to begin, bird flaps its wings, palms come together right in front of the dantian, which is that spot 2 inches below the navel, and I'm going to make an oval shape with the base of the palms and the fingertips kind of really emphasizing the oval. It's not an open shape like that. It's point at the base of the palms and then the fingertips connecting. Then I'm going to drop my knees forward and flap right at the hips. Slow to return, flap again. This is bird flaps its wings, very descriptive. And then wrist circle 1 to the top of the second circle and then come back. Release. Slow to return, release, slow to return, wrist circle forward 1.5 times, and I'm going to turn to the side so you can see a demonstration to the side, and then we'll do it all together. As I drop down, I'm also shifting at an angle, diagonally down when I flap, and you can see that my heels become light or off the ground, and that's right here. I'm not pushing up. I'm releasing my knees down. That's an important distinction. 2, that's the second flap. And then wrist circle forward 1.5 times to the top of the second circle. My hands come together. I scoop up. I separate, show you the separation, and then back into the resting pose. And then I take a breath. So you might have eagerly followed along with that, or you may have just watched, but let's break it apart. So feet are in a V. We're just going to, as I mentioned with rocking motion, all of Tai Chi Chih is done below the waist. The arms come along for the ride. That's a helpful way to think about it. The focus is not on the arms, even though they help us circulate the chi. But here we go. Feet are in a V. This is for bird flaps its wings. And I'm going to relax my hands right now, but I'm going to practice dropping my knees down or releasing forward and doing that, and then I'm going to come back up. Release and come back up. And then release my knees down, and then I'm going to hold. I'm just going to hold here for a minute, and then I'm going to come back up. So let's just turn to the side. You can see it again. The most important thing is that you're just releasing your knees down. Your heels will become light. That's a sign that you're doing it correctly, but you won't feel like you're pushing with your toes and creating tension. So your heels will either become light in your shoe or off, the heels will actually come off the ground, but that's because you're shifting your weight actually forward and down. That's number 2. And then on the third one, wrist circling. And then you come back. So we do a total of 3 sets. Let's practice the arms and then we'll put it all together. So if my arms are starting to learn bird flaps its wings, I'm going to start in the resting pose as always and take a breath. Still focusing in the soles of the feet. So there's no rush, easy does it. To begin, it's very simple. Just turn the palms towards one another and find that connection. They're not touching, but the base of the palm and the fingertips. And this palm-to-palm connection is another principle of Tai Chi Chih called polarity, or polarity between the palms. Be aware of the connection right now between your palms. Good. Great. Okay. So, and then we're just going to flap at the wrists, and our palms are going to become parallel to the floor. And it's not up here, it's just right at the hips, just to release a flap. So that's the first flap. And then we're going to be aware of that polarity between the palms as the palms approach one another. There's that connection, and then flap again. And then we're going to be aware again as slow, slow, slow to connect. And this time we're going to wrist circle forward. 1, like we're jumping rope forward, 1.5. And one way to think about this is if your hand has a little collar on it, like a pet collar, you know, for the pets that are not supposed to chew. If you have a little collar, the fingertips don't point in because they have that collar on. So if you have your hands here and you can imagine dropping down, see my fingertips don't turn in, drop down because of the collar, and they come up over the top and they drop down, and then they come to the second circle right here, and then they return back to one another. Okay, and then they scoop up and separate and down. So I don't know if that image helps, but it can help you remember, like, oh, don't turn the fingertips in. When we turn in like that, it cuts off the flow of the energy through the energy channels in the body that are called meridian channels, and we want to keep these open. We're kind of like exercising them as we do these movements, and the wrists are a critical part in opening up these energy channels and allowing the energy to flow very freely through the body. So we're aware of that as we're practicing. So let's do bird flaps its wings all together. Here we go. So focus on the soles of your feet. And as a reminder, find your midpoint. If you notice you're just scooching forward a little bit and there's too much weight in the toes, find the midpoint, forward, back. Find the midpoint, left to right. And then as you settle in, easy does it, no anticipation. We're just going to pause again, take another breath. Good. All right. Bird flaps its wings, putting it all together. So the palms come together, palm to palm, polarity between the palms, and then I release my knees forward as my hands flap. And then slow to return. And again, remember the fluttering of the fingers, just ignore that. That's a reflection of the energy moving through the body. That happens eventually. It's not a big deal. Just ignore it. So that was our first set. Here's our second set. Flat. Slow, slow, slow. Connect with the palms. Focus in the feet. 2. And here we go. And then wrist circle forward. 1.5. One more set. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see it from the side. Release. You can see the heels come up. Release. Good. And then wrist circle forward. 1.5. And then to close, the palms come together. We'll turn forward. They scoop up. They separate. And then everything sinks back into the resting pose. And I'm going to take a breath here. And relax. So those two movements, rocking motion and bird flaps its wings, are the first two movements, the preliminaries, of the Tai Chi Chih movement series. There's a consolidation practice in the next video where you can do both of those together. Enjoy.